Catch-22 by Joseph Heller. Catch-22 is a satirical novel set during World War II. It follows Captain John Yossarian, a U.S. Army Air Force's B-25 bombardier, and his squadron members as they attempt to maintain their sanity while fulfilling their service requirements. The term Catch-22 refers to a bureaucratic absurdity, which dictates that airmen who are insane can be grounded for requesting it, but those who request to be grounded are considered sane and thus must continue flying dangerous missions. The novel critiques the illogical nature of war and bureaucracy through its dark humor and absurdist tone. Let's deep dive into the book. Introduction to Yossarian and the Squadron. The novel opens with Captain John Yossarian in a military hospital, feigning illness to avoid flying more combat missions. Yossarian is deeply fearful of dying in the war and becomes obsessed with his own survival. His fellow squadron members, each with their own eccentricities and coping mechanisms, are introduced, painting a vivid picture of the absurdity and chaos that pervades their lives. The concept of Catch-22. The titular Catch-22 is a military rule that epitomizes bureaucratic absurdity. It states that airmen who are insane can be grounded if they request it, but if they request to be grounded, they are considered sane and therefore must fly. This paradox captures the novel's central theme, the inescapable circular logic of bureaucratic systems. Yossarian's attempts to escape the war are continually thwarted by this and other similar absurd regulations. The eccentric characters. The squadron is filled with eccentric characters, each highlighting different aspects of military and bureaucratic absurdity. Milo Minderbinder, the mess officer, is a war profiteer who creates a syndicate and prioritizes profit over lives. Doc Danica, the flight surgeon, exemplifies the indifference and self-preservation of military officials. Major, promoted purely due to his unfortunate name, becomes a recluse, avoiding his responsibilities. These characters and their antics add layers of dark humor to the narrative. Yossarian's struggles and despair. Yossarian's growing desperation is a central focus. He becomes increasingly disillusioned with the war and the military hierarchy, which places missions and orders above human life. His fear of death leads him to various attempts to escape flying missions, including malingering, appealing to superiors, and even contemplating desertion. His struggles highlight the novel's critique of the dehumanizing effects of war and bureaucracy. The death of Snowden. A pivotal moment in the novel is the death of Yossarian's comrade, Snowden. During a mission, Snowden is fatally wounded, and Yossarian witnesses his gruesome death. This traumatic experience profoundly affects Yossarian, reinforcing his determination to survive and deepening his existential crisis. Snowden's death symbolizes the brutal reality of war and the fragility of life. Milo Minderbinder's syndicate. Milo Minderbinder's syndicate becomes a symbol of the corruption and moral bankruptcy within the military. Milo engages in various illicit activities, including trading with the enemy, to maximize profits. His catchphrase, "What's good for M&M Enterprises is good for the country," satirizes the conflation of personal gain with national interest. Milo's actions, while absurdly humorous, underscore the novel's critique of capitalism and war profiteering. The incompetence of military leadership. The novel portrays military leaders as largely incompetent and self-serving. Characters like Colonel Cathcart, who continually raises the number of required missions to boost his own career, and General Dreedel, who is more concerned with his own comfort than the well-being of his men, exemplify this. Their decisions often have dire consequences for the men under their command, highlighting the disconnect between leadership and the realities of combat. Yossarian's rebellion. As Yossarian becomes more resolute in his desire to survive, he openly rebels against the military bureaucracy. He refuses to fly any more missions, leading to conflicts with his superiors. His rebellion is not just against the war, but against the entire system that perpetuates it. Yossarian's actions represent a stand for individual sanity and morality in the face of institutional madness. The deal with Cathcart and Korn. Yossarian is offered a deal by Colonels Cathcart and Korn. If he agrees to support them publicly, he will be sent home. Initially tempted, Yossarian ultimately rejects the deal, realizing it would mean betraying his comrades who would still be forced to fly missions. This decision marks his final stand against the corrupt system, affirming his moral integrity. The conclusion and Yossarian's escape. The novel concludes with Yossarian learning that his friend Orr, presumed dead, has successfully escaped to neutral Sweden. Inspired by Orr's ingenuity and determination, Yossarian decides to desert the military and follow Orr's example. This ending, while open to interpretation, suggests a glimmer of hope and the possibility of escaping the absurdities of war and bureaucracy. Let's meet together the main characters of the book. Captain John Yossarian, the protagonist, is a B-25 bombardier who becomes increasingly disillusioned with the war and the military bureaucracy. His primary goal is to survive, and he goes to great lengths to avoid flying dangerous missions. Yossarian's character embodies the novel's themes of individual sanity, resistance to absurdity, and the moral dilemmas of survival. Milo Minderbinder, the mess officer, is a war profiteer who creates a vast syndicate that prioritizes profit over human life. His entrepreneurial schemes and amoral pragmatism highlight the novel's critique of capitalism and the corruption inherent in the pursuit of profit. Milo's character represents the intersection of war, commerce, and moral compromise. Colonel Cathcart is an ambitious and self-serving officer who continually raises the number of missions required for his men, hoping to gain favor with his superiors. His actions, driven by personal ambition, exemplify the incompetence and callousness of military leadership. Cathcart's character underscores the novel's themes of bureaucratic absurdity and the disconnect between leaders and soldiers. Dr. Nika, the squadron flight surgeon, epitomizes the indifference and self-preservation of military officials. He is more concerned with his own safety and comfort than the well-being of the men he is supposed to care for. Dr. Nika's character illustrates the dehumanizing effects of bureaucratic systems and the lack of compassion within the military hierarchy. Major, promoted to his rank purely because of his name, becomes a reclusive figure, avoiding his responsibilities. His character highlights the arbitrary and absurd nature of military bureaucracy. Major's experiences emphasize the novel's critique of institutional inefficiency and the often ludicrous nature of hierarchical structures. Snowden is a young airman whose gruesome death profoundly impacts Yossarian. Snowden's death is a pivotal moment in the novel, symbolizing the brutal reality of war and the fragility of life. His character serves as a catalyst for Yossarian's deepening existential crisis and his determination to survive. Orr, Yossarian's tentmate and fellow bombardier, is initially perceived as eccentric and somewhat foolish. However, his successful escape to Sweden reveals his ingenuity and resilience. Orr's character represents hope and the possibility of escaping the absurdity of war, inspiring Yossarian to pursue his own path to freedom. Let's explore together the main themes and concepts of the book. The absurdity of war. The novel critiques the absurdity of war, highlighting the illogical and dehumanizing nature of military conflict. Through Yossarian's experiences and the nonsensical rules of Catch-22, the novel portrays war as an irrational endeavor driven by bureaucratic mandates rather than human considerations. This theme underscores the futility and madness of war. Bureaucratic injustice. Bureaucratic systems and their inherent flaws are central to the novel. The concept of Catch-22 epitomizes the arbitrary and self-perpetuating nature of bureaucratic rules. The novel exposes how these systems prioritize their own preservation over the well-being of individuals, leading to absurd and often tragic outcomes. The corruption of power. The novel explores the corrupting influence of power, particularly within the military hierarchy. Characters like Milo Minderbinder, Colonel Cathcart, and General Dreidel exploit their positions for personal gain, demonstrating the moral decay that accompanies unchecked authority. This theme critiques the moral compromises and ethical lapses that power can engender. The struggle for individual sanity. Yossarian's quest for survival and sanity in an insane world is a central theme. His refusal to accept the irrational demands of the military represents a stand for individual sanity and moral integrity. The novel highlights the tension between personal survival and the pressures to conform to collective madness. The futility of heroism. The novel subverts traditional notions of heroism, portraying acts of bravery as often futile or misguided. Yossarian's heroism lies not in his willingness to fight, but in his determination to survive and his resistance to the dehumanizing demands of the military. This theme challenges conventional heroic ideals and emphasizes the value of self-preservation and moral autonomy. Let's talk about the author. Joseph Heller was an American author best known for his satirical novel, Catch-22, published in 1961. Heller's work is characterized by its dark humor, incisive critique of bureaucracy, and exploration of the absurdities of modern life. Catch-22 became a seminal work in 20th century American literature, influencing generations of writers and readers with its unique narrative style and biting social commentary. Heller's other notable works include Something Happened, Good as Gold, and Closing Time. His contributions to literature extend beyond satire, as he adeptly captured the complexities and contradictions of the human experience. Sincere thanks for watching. If you found this summary helpful, consider taking a moment to hit the subscribe button, like or share the video. If you have any feedbacks or book requests, make sure to leave a comment. Regardless, I wish you a great day.